This week in Square Up with GraySquare.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Square Up with GraySquare. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We are spending some time with Mr. Shawn Mills. We'll call him a serial entrepreneur. He's got a handful of things that he dabbles in and runs around in. So he's got a ton of experience in business. We collaborate on a project here and there. A couple of things that we're working on together. So we thought it'd be a great chance to talk a little bit about his experience in business, starting businesses, best practices, see where we go. So, Shawn, if you wouldn't mind doing the elevator pitch, what's who are you, where you at, what are you into?
Sure. Shawn Mills, married, 4 kids. You said serial entrepreneur. I don't know if I'm serial or not, but I'm definitely kind of crazy. So
that's fair.
But 13 years ago, we started an energy company. We're really a marketing company, but we're an energy broker. We sell electricity and natural gas. So my wife and I started that about 13 years ago. In the last couple of years, we've started a couple other businesses. We actually have a sports complex in Virginia, right in between Richmond and Fredericksburg, Virginia, right off Interstate 95. We got 8 baseball fields, 2 basketball courts, 4 volleyball courts, 16 batting cages, restaurant. So it's a big undertaking, to say the least. We've got 113 acres down there. And then my wife is a temperament therapist, which is kind of like a psychiatrist, but where you actually have a plan of how you're going to overcome the situation that you're in. So not down on psychiatry or anything like that. It's just kind of from a different angle, where instead of just talking about it all the time, we're actually going to game plan and figure out a way to fix the situation or something. So we have that as well. So that plus the 4 kids. And the 4 kids, I got one of them that's married. She's off in California. Her husband's in the military. They're stationed out there.
Okay.
I've got a 22-year-old who is a movie maker. She went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts up in New York. And so she's just got out of there about a year ago and is starting her film career. Got a son who's a sports business major, and he's helping me with the sports facility. And then we've got a 12-year-old who's I think 7th grade and is the 11th ranked skater east of the Mississippi here or something like that. So anyways,
what type of skating? Like
figure skating, like you see on the Olympics and everything.
Yeah.
She's like just one notch below being an Olympic level skater. So it's pretty crazy. We live about 2 hours from the University of Delaware. She goes there 2 days a week to skate with the coaches up there.
Yeah.
Is
that sort of the plan to work towards like Olympics?
What's that?
Is that the plan, like to work towards potential getting into the Olympics potentially?
I mean, that's her plan. Every 12-year-old kid thinks they're going to go to the Olympics, right? And as a parent, our job is to just facilitate the dreams of our kids. If she told me she wanted to stop skating tomorrow and wanted to start playing softball or, wanted to go into dance or something, I'd be 100% all in on that.
Sure.
We kind of teach our kids, you can do anything you want, but you cannot do everything you want.
Yeah.
So we're not the parents that, you play 17 different sports and every 2 weeks you're picking up a different ball or something like that. I'm not down on that. I'm not saying it's wrong.
No, just you go on the path of like commitment.
Yeah. We want to teach them what commitment is. And 2, being entrepreneurs and owning your own business, you can't change schedules all the time. So the thing about having one sport is, the practices are always on this day, at this time, in this location. If every 3 months I have to go from baseball, then I have to go to football. And then the football coach says, no, we practice at different times on different days and different locations. And then we go to basketball and it's a different time and different location. I can't do that. I can't change my schedule up every 3 months or something. So just as a family, my wife and I decided a long time ago, we're not going to tell our kids they can't do anything, but we're going to pick something and we're going to focus on that. And the family is behind you, but the family has to have a certain, dynamic to it. And with having 4 kids, the older ones, we don't have that much anymore. They get in their own cars and go where they want to. But a couple of years ago, everybody was still under our roof and we had to take people in different directions. When you've got 2 parents and 4 kids, we can't change the schedule up every 3 months.
That's fair.
Yeah. So, that's a little bit about me right there.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate you going through that. And that kind of gives me to a question. So like when I talk to people, it's usually, business owners, entrepreneurs, or people that are aspiring to become that, right? And I think a common theme of a lot of entrepreneurs is they view the end goal as, I want to have, multiple businesses all over the place doing different stuff. And there's a lot of obstacles that prevent people from doing that. You've pulled that off. What's what would you say a big mistake people make in trying to like diversify? Is it trying to do it too soon? Is it, lack of attention to detail? Is it bad systems? Like, what do you think people run into that you got right?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I was going to say, yes, it's all those things. It can be,
Right.
it's a tough question because it can be truly different things for different people. I think for me, I think the one thing that I would say is some people are entrepreneurs and some people have entrepreneurial tendencies. And so that makes them think that they're an entrepreneur. Okay. Some people don't like where they work. So they think they want to be on their own because they don't like having a boss. Okay. Well, that's a tendency that doesn't necessarily make you an entrepreneur. There are different things that just make people feel like they want to own their own business. But there's something there. I was talking to my son just last night and I was like, when the proverbial, what hits the fan, I don't have anybody to go talk to. And people who have entrepreneurial tendencies, they think, oh, well, that's okay because, I always go talk to my dad. I can always go talk to this coworker or whatever it is. And they don't realize when it's all on you and something goes wrong, it's very lonely.
Sure.
And you gotta figure it out and you gotta make some decisions that are tough. And you don't realize that. And I didn't realize that. I mean, we started lots of different businesses and, didn't make it past 6 months and things. When I say lots, 3 or 4, something like that.
Enough to break your heart 3 or 4 times. It's a lot.
Yeah. You live and learn. But the one thing that I always did was I always had an income coming in from somewhere. I never went out on my own and didn't have something coming in. So like when I started the energy business, we had a multi-level marketing business that I had somewhere in the neighborhood about $2,500 a month coming in. So when I started my energy business, I don't know how long you've known about the energy business, how things work, but when I started, there was no upfront money. So
Sure.
if I signed something, we're in January. If I signed something in January, best case scenario, if they switched next month, which sometimes they didn't switch for 6 or 8 months.
You have post-dated. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you sign them up in January, they switch in February, they get their first bill in March, they pay the bill in April, the utility pays the supplier in May, and the supplier pays me in June. So 6 months down the road, I get a check and it's for 1/12 of the commission because it's only based on that month's worth of usage all the way back in February.
Right.
Okay. So 6 months into my energy business, I had made a whopping grand total of $257.
There you go.
Okay. And that wasn't profit. That was revenue.
That was cat. Yeah.
Yeah. That was revenue.
You're making a solid 20 cents an hour at that rate, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
short term.
My wife's looking at me going, are you sure about that? I mean, what the heck are we doing? And I was like, nah, if we can make 257 this month, we can make 500 next month. And then we go to 750 and then 900 and then 1100. And we just kept building on it. And now, we have 5,500 customers, about 7,500 accounts. These are all commercial accounts in the DC, Baltimore area. So sort of Northern Virginia, all the way up to like the Pennsylvania line. But, we started off, it was just me. And I'm literally just walking and knocking on doors and going in and talking to people. And it took a long time before I knew what to say, what not to say. When somebody wasn't very nice to me when I walked in, just cold, I couldn't think about how that made me feel personally. I just had to go in the next door and have the same smile and the same attitude and just, tell somebody, God bless you, have a nice day and move on. Yeah. And, that's not for everybody. That's a tough gig. And, I don't think I'm any more special than the next person. But I do think it takes special qualities to be able to have people tell you no 49 times in a row, and you go to the 50th person and start asking them the same questions again. So I don't know. You're talking about what are some things that make people, or some mistakes that people make when they first get started. I think the biggest one is really knowing what an entrepreneur is and then being honest with yourself and saying, is that really me? And maybe it is, maybe it's not. And you want to become that. I don't think it's like a special thing in your DNA that you can't become that. But you got to study and you got to work and you got to read a lot. You got to hang around with entrepreneurs and you got to really, figure out what it really means. And do I really want to have that level of commitment?
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. So with your energy business and your interest in, commercial energy, why in the world do it? Right. From your perspective, right. You have a good thing going, which you did at the time, as you mentioned, you had a consistent business going. You step into a business model where, as you explained it, doesn't really pay off until you really like kick things off. Was that based on your understanding of multi-level marketing was kind of similar in that you really got to get things going and then it pops off? Or was it just you felt the industry was cool and had a lot of upside and learned it as you go? Do you have a passion for the energy? Like, how did it work to you to dive into this?
Yeah, definitely not a passion for energy. That was not it. It was straight up money. Okay. When I looked at this to start off with, it was straight up money. And kind of give you a little bit more background on myself. I have a 10th grade education. I dropped out of school 8 weeks into my 11th grade year. And I just thought I was going to go outwork the problem. And that's what I saw my grandfather do. That's what I saw my dad do. And I just was like, you know what, let me just go work. And so when I saw the energy business and I saw how much time it was going to take to get to where I needed to be, I had already gone through, 10, 15 years of trying to outwork the problem and doing whatever I needed to do to make a buck, really different sales kind of jobs, sales and marketing kind of jobs. So when I saw this and I thought to myself, well, you're not going to make money for it's probably going to be a year before you even make anything even close to substantial. It's going to be 3 years before you're really making anything to speak of. When I looked at that, I literally thought to myself, well, I've been working for 15 years and I'm still living paycheck to paycheck and, having more month than money and things like that. So 3 years didn't sound like a bad deal.
Sure.
So that's where I looked at the energy business maybe a little bit different than most. Some people look at it and go, man, it's going to take me 3 years to do that. I'm not sure. And then, I talked about how the multi-level marketing business, this may sound crazy, but I always had multiple streams of income. I worked for companies for an hourly wage. I would work on the weekends. I would do anything. My wife literally was like I worked night jobs. I would leave the house at 7 o'clock in the morning. I worked for GE over in Rockville, Maryland. Mm-hmm. I would leave the house at 7 o'clock in the morning, work all day long. I go do my multi-level marketing business in the evening, come home 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, get back up at 7 o'clock the next day and go at it again. And I get 2 to 3 hours of sleep. And my wife literally was like, I don't know how you're doing this. You're like part vampire. How is this working? And I literally did that. Now I did that for 17 years, the last 5 of which was energy business. So, like I said, when you talk about commitment and things like that, I don't need sleep gene or something. I don't know what it is, but that's the way it is. Now, some people can get a lot more done in 8 hours than I do. So maybe they don't need to act like that. I personally, I don't get enough done in 8 hours. It takes me 12, 14 a lot of times. So anyways, that just goes back to the commitment level. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to work till the job is done, not till you're ready to be done. Like you might be ready to go home, but if the job's not done, you got to stay.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I don't think a lot of people have the maturity to have that type of vision. I think that's what scares a lot of people off from starting businesses is that, the upside looks cool. It looks cool to see the entrepreneur with the nice things and the cool business, but the maturity that it takes to have the vision and the realization that this is not going to work for a minute. I'm going to be dramatically overworked and dramatically underpaid for a hot minute until this thing actually becomes worth anything at all. And then when it does, you get all the rewards and everything. Another thing I wanted to ask you about too is, and with having multiple businesses going, you have to put a lot of trust in other people, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. Even if you work 24 hours in a day, you can't do enough to sustain 3 businesses. There's no chance, right? Well, at least in my professional opinion, right? How do you go about giving up the control? right? Because I think that's something a lot of entrepreneurs crave is I'm working for the man. I have no control. I do my own thing. I get all the control. I get to make all the decisions. You can't do that in your world. How do you find those people? How do you exhale and give that up a bit?
Yeah, that's a great question right there, because it's 100% factual. You can't answer everybody's questions. You know, really, I think that it's very difficult to, if you want to call it manage or whatever, but just direct reports. I think if you have more than 3, it's tough. If you have more than 5, forget about it. If there's more than 5 people that you have to deal with directly, or that are direct reports, some people call it that kind of stuff. If you have to deal with more than 5 people directly, you're going to fail. In my personal opinion, you can't do it. I mean, Jesus himself really had 3 people who were very close to him. Then he had the 12, the other 9, the 12 disciples, and then the rest of the world. Okay.
So he had a good management infrastructure.
And he had a good management
with his team. That's respectable. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. So, I look at it and go, if that guy really only had 3 direct reports, well, what am I doing trying to have?
Who am I? Some joker.
So, but it's true. I mean, so you have to find good people. And for me, it's been try, fail, and adjust. You think you've got good people, and, sometimes, like, we moved into the sports facility and I had good people there, but they were used to doing something their way for the last 7 years. And now all of a sudden I come in, and it's not that their way was necessarily wrong, but my ways were different. And so we tried for about 6 months to make that work. It didn't work. It's not their fault. It's not my fault. It's just, it wasn't the right fit. You see a lot of times, a baseball team hires a new manager, and what do? They get rid of all the other coaches, and maybe they bring in a new general manager. Well, he gets rid of the manager, all the coaches, the scouts, everything else. And he brings in people that he knows, that he's familiar with, that he knows, they know him. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way that we work down there. And for the most part, we've had almost 100% turnover from where we were when I got the place 10 months ago. And some of it was where I let people go, and some of it was where people came to me and said, I don't dislike you. I'm not mad, but I found another job because this isn't fitting with what I came here expecting.
Sure.
With the other management team. Now this has changed and it's not what I expected. So I need to move on. And I respect that. I wish them all the success in the world. I write them referral letters, whatever. But, so you do have to find new people. Even when you have good people, sometimes they're just not the right people for you. But as far as finding them, I don't have some secret sauce, or something like that to figure out how to interview properly or something like that. It's really been, I'll tell you this, biggest mistake I made in that area is keeping people on too long. I feel like I'm loyal and I really root for people.
Sure.
So, I
you get caught up in potential.
Yeah.
Fair.
And I hire somebody, I bring them on board, and I really want them to succeed. And so when they're not doing what I really want them to do or what I see they need to do, I'm trying to get in there and help them and try to get them along. And sometimes you just got to go, you know what? It's not the right person. Somebody told me one time, it's easier to give birth than to resurrect the dead. And sometimes you've got people working for you and it's just not the right person, and trying to resurrect them and get them to be something else is just not going to happen. It's just better to go get somebody new. So that's probably my one of my biggest mistakes, is rooting for people and keeping them on board way longer than I should have. Because if I was honest with myself, they weren't the right person.
Sure.
It probably would have been better for them also if I'd have nicely helped them transition to another position.
Do you feel like you spend a lot of time, because I think something that entrepreneurs have in common is that, everything is your fault, or at least you kind of talk yourself into that. Or at least I've seen myself do that. Like if there's a problem in the business, it's because there's a problem with me and something I've done. Did you spend a lot of time with these people that weren't a good fit, justifying like, they're probably not a good fit because I'm not providing X, Y, and Z. Let me try to do this. And then was that something that you dealt with or no?
Probably. I've never sat back and thought about it like that, I guess, maybe. I'm kind of a person, I actually said this to somebody today. I'm really not the kind of person that cares whose fault it is. I care that we're working on a solution. So I'm not the kind of person, I don't blame myself. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm not sitting there going, that person's not making it. It's all my fault or something. I'm really trying to spin it around and go, okay, who cares who made the mistake or where the problem is? Let's determine what's our game plan to fix the situation.
Right.
And when we do that, one, I feel like it's more of a positive thing. I feel good about it and everything. I'm not beating myself up or down on somebody else or something like that. But then two, it probably makes it a little bit easier to recognize whether or not you've got the right person or not, because now you're saying, this is the game plan. Here are the responsibilities that each one of us have to take. Is this person a good fit for those responsibilities? So I try to do that. I'm not going to tell you that I do that all the time. I try not to play the blame game, because I truly don't care. I just really want to know, what are we going to do to fix it?
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Is there out of your businesses, is there one at this point that you dedicate the most time to, and if so, why?
Definitely the energy business.
Okay.
It probably should be the sports facility. By the way, it's called Legacy Park. If anybody's wondering, you can look it up. Legacy Park, VA, like Virginia.
We'll put links everywhere.
What's that?
We'll put links everywhere for people listening. They'll be able to find everything.
Beautiful. It probably should be that business, because it needs the most attention right now. But it's kind of like one of those things where, I have a little bit of a background in sports. Sometimes you have a prospect who's ahead of everybody else right now, but you've got this other guy, they call it, he's got a high ceiling. So if you go work with the guy that's got the high ceiling, it's going to take a lot of time to develop that person. Well, when you're the manager, if you don't win now, you might not have a job next year to still be working with that prospect.
Sure.
Okay. And that's kind of the way it is with the energy business and with the other two businesses. The energy business is the one that brings in the money.
Sure.
Right? The other two businesses are fun. They're family businesses. I get to work on with my son or my wife or anything. So they're more of a passion, if you want to call it that. Okay, something I have more fun doing, but they don't pay the bills, at least not right now. Okay, the energy business is what's doing that. So I put more time into that, because if that falters, the other two aren't going to exist either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense with, because I really believe the sports complex has phenomenal potential, and we're growing it. We're working on everything, but it's almost like that's the new prospect that's straight out of high school that 4 years from now might be a superstar. But right now I've got this veteran who's actually my ticket to winning some games right now.
Sure.
So, how do you develop that, and where do you spend time? A lot of times you end up spending it with that current group of players, those veterans that are going to make sure you still got a job next year.
No, that's a good point. So with the sports complex, and I apologize if I missed this, who's the, how does the business model function? Is it is there, trainings going on? Is there different leagues and things like that? What's the model?
Yep. So we actually have a lot of different things that go on there. So being in Central Virginia where we are, by the time you get to late March, you usually have some pretty good weather to do things outdoors. Mm-hmm. So really from say last week of March to the first week of November, we have tournaments booked on, we have 8 fields, but 4 of them are the full size 90-foot diamonds, like a professional diamond. And then 4 of them are little league size. So you have girls softball or boys that are under the age of 12 and under, play on those fields. So for about 39 weeks, we have at least one tournament. Well, we have a tournament on each, we call them quads. We have a tournament on each quad booked for 39 weekends. Some of those are week-long tournaments. Once you get in the summer, you can have 5 to 7 day tournaments because kids don't have to go to school during the week. So March to about mid-June, they're weekend tournaments. Then mid-June to mid-August, they're week-long. And then mid-August to beginning of November, you're doing weekend stuff again. So that's outside on the ball fields. And then in the summertime, we're doing camps. We do basketball and baseball, softball camps during the summer. So we got a bunch of kids there all the time. And then we've got, we're just now starting to have basketball leagues, and we've got a couple of AAU teams that are going to be working out there. We actually have a couple of high schools where they're small private high schools. They've got a gym, But when you have middle school boys and girls and middle school or in high school boys and girls, so you got 4 different basketball teams. Well, you can't have practices for all 4 of them at the same time. And if you have games, the varsity might have games, so the JV or the middle school's got to come to our place to practice. So about 3:30, we have kids in the gym practicing, and then about 6:30, we have travel teams that come in or AAU teams that come in. So we've got 7 of our batting cages are indoors, and they're the accordion type where you can push them all back against the wall. We have about 14,000 square feet of turfed indoor space. So you can do a little infield work. You can work on just like bunts, who's moving where in certain situations, or you can pull those batting cages out and you can hit or pitch inside the cages. So there's stuff going on there, especially in the summertime. There's stuff going on there, pretty much from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night.
That is constantly.
Yeah. And then our goal is to, in the fall, hopefully this year, it may be a year off, but I'm hoping this fall, is to actually start an academy where kids would be homeschooled, but they would show up at our facility with their computer.
Yeah.
And all their classes are on the computer. And like to say, let's say we have a basketball and we have girls and boys basketball teams. So from 7:30 to 9:30, the girls will do their schoolwork and the boys will be practicing 7:30 to 9:30 in the morning. Then at 9:30, they flip that up. The girls go practice and the boys are doing their schoolwork. Then you have lunch, and then in the afternoon, same thing again. The girls are doing schoolwork and the boys are practicing. Then around 2:30, you flip that up. You do the same thing again. So by the time they're done with school, they've actually got 4 hours worth of sports practice in. Okay, I use basketball as an example. We're gonna have softball and baseball also. So you get a private education, and you get 4 hours of high quality coaching every day. And a lot of these kids are still going to play on an AAU team or a travel baseball team or something like that. So then they're still going to go to practice again later on in the evening. So they're going to get 2 more hours worth of practice. So they're really getting 6 hours some days of high quality practice. Well, if that kid starts doing that in the 9th grade, by the time he gets to his senior year, he's a totally different player than somebody who's only getting 3 nights a week of 2 hours worth of practice or something.
Right.
So
and I'm guessing from more like premier talent coaching, as well. You're not having bums teach them all day. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there, so this is already kind of in the works you're hoping for in the next 6, 7, 8 months?
Yeah. We're hoping to have 2 teams when we get into August, really ours, because when you do things, when people are able to go at their own pace and they're the kind of people who are disciplined, they're athletes, they have a different discipline than just your typical high school kid. Okay.
Yeah.
If you've got a high school classroom, you got 25 or 30 kids in that class, you get a third of the stuff done in an hour that a kid can do by himself on his computer. A focused person that's watching a video or was looking at a PowerPoint presentation or something like that, and then having to take a quiz or test online or something like that, that student by themselves working at their own pace will smoke anybody else. So in half a day worth of work, and we're not even going to start until after Labor Day, and we'll be done before Memorial Day, and they'll get 7 or 8 classes in a month shorter time, and really they'll probably be done. Like my daughter, we homeschool. My 12-year-old, she's usually done month and a half, 2 months before school's out.
Now, did you have, I know not like a background per se based on what you mentioned earlier, but who's got the background in education to kind of help facilitate that part of it? Because it's a pretty complex, education model.
For sure. So my wife has more degrees than a thermometer. Okay.
There it is. There's the expertise.
Yes, there's the expertise.
All right.
I don't know. She got an undergraduate degree, I think, 1 in French and 1 in English. She speaks 3 languages fluently, speaks and writes. She was born in Brazil, lived there till she was 7.
Okay.
Then she moved to France until she was 13. Then she moved here when she was 13. Okay. But every place she moved, she was sitting right here and talking. She had no accent. She writes better than I do. Her punctuation, she knows what a dangling participle is and all that kind of garbage. I have no clue. And she knows how to do it in all 3 languages. And then she can communicate. Like we've been to Europe a few times, And I don't care if we're in Germany or if we're in Italy or wherever we are, she can communicate in those languages, right?
Yeah.
So she's very smart when it comes to languages. So she got an undergraduate in English and I think some kind of special certificate in French also. Then she got a master's in French studies or something like that. And then she got another master's in temperament therapy. And I'm forgetting something in there. So anyways, so she's the smart one. I'm the good looking one.
There you go. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So she's the one that's really got the education background and like we homeschooled all of our kids, our older kids, we homeschooled also up until my oldest was a high schooler. So when they went to regular school, we had a 9th grader, an 8th grader, and a 6th grader. So that was when my older kids all went to school for the first time. So she did that all. And that wasn't online. That was before online was like a big
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That was, like, I don't know if you can tell, I got a marker board behind me. This is where, she had a marker board up and she taught classes and she taught 3 different classes, So she taught, like we had an 8th grader, a 7th grader, and a 5th grader. So she had to teach 3 different grades. And she did that and was spectacular at it. All my kids got into colleges and I happen to think they're fairly intelligent.
Seem to be doing all right. Yeah. No, that's okay. Awesome. So maybe we run a separate podcast and discuss that portion of talent acquisition. It seems like you did okay there too.
Yeah. I did spectacular in that area.
Exactly. Like I said, that's a whole other hour-long podcast that maybe, somebody else
25
runs.
years this last July. We just had our 25th anniversary.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Very cool. Yep.
That's awesome. So is there is there anything that you're super excited for this year that we haven't covered yet? Like any business goals that you're are super optimistic about with any of your current operations? Yeah,
for sure. Well, I got to tell you the partnership, and I don't know that this is what you were looking for, but the partnership that we've made here recently with GraySquare, Tim and all those guys, very fired up about. That was something that. I told you I had a lot of different sales jobs and stuff like that. So I did some telecom sales way back in the day, like before 9/11 and stuff like that, right around that time, actually. And so I had a little bit of background in that kind of stuff, but had really gotten totally away from it and really wasn't even thinking going down that road or anything. And met up with Jay Scott, and I don't even remember exactly how that all played out, but just got to talk.
We just show up places.
What's that?
We just show up places.
Yeah. I actually,
our ideas.
I want to say it was LinkedIn, but I don't even know if that's factual or not. But anyways, but no, I really enjoyed talking to him. I had a few phone conversations and everything, and I got excited about telecom stuff. And I thought, if we've got 5,500 commercial customers, one of the things that I wanted to do was make them, I call it sticky. I wanted them to stick to us more. And the more products that a company has with you, the more they're going to stick to you, because it's a pain to move away from you. So if they got their electricity and their natural gas from us already, well, if I can get them cell phones and tablets and maybe 1 or 2 other things that's specific to their business, that company's going to be real stuck to DMS Energy.
Sure.
And so I enjoyed Jay and Tim and some of the other folks that I've met. So I want to be in a good business, but I want to be in a good business with good people also. So I enjoyed that, the whole, like onboarding process or just meeting up and getting to know each other and everything. And then I really see some huge potential with that, because whether energy opens the door for telecom or telecom opens the door for energy, I just think it's a I don't know, a match made in heaven or whatever you want to call it. So
sure.
I'm very excited about like moving forward in that area there. As far as the energy stuff, I'm excited about a lot of solar stuff that's going on in Maryland. So I won't get into all that, but they passed some laws here that really make it advantageous for businesses and residential folks to get solar energy.
To kind of clean up the cycle a little bit, make it easier on people to get moving on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, they cleaned it up a little bit, but really they're penalizing people who don't get solar energy now. Well, you have to get green energy of some sort. So you can select it from a supplier, or you could just get solar panels on your roof. But either way, if you don't do one of those 2 things over the next 5 years, you're going to start seeing serious penalties on your bill, especially commercial customers. Back in October, they had this new, it's not officially a tax. I don't know what they call it, a fee or whatever, but they started it back in October, and it's minimal right now. People, it's it's probably on the average electric bill, it's probably 10 to 20 bucks a month right now. By the time we get to this time next year, it's going to be 75 to 100. And 5 years from now, it'll be a couple $100.
Unbelievable.
Their goal is to have 50% of the electricity in Maryland to be some type of green energy by 2030. So in the next 10 years, they want half of all the energy in Maryland to be green. And they tried all these incentives and people didn't really latch onto them. So they said, you know what, if incentives don't work, we'll try penalties. And
typical business strategy. If you got to go with positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement.
Yeah. So
which one people respond to.
We'll see what goes there, but I'm excited about the opportunity, and I'm not like Mr. Green or whatever. I'm
sure.
I'm not that guy. I think we should be kind to the earth. I think if we can, like, I love solar energy because it's pretty much the same price as what you're paying right now, but over the course of time, the solar price is going to stay the same while brown energy continues to increase. So you get solar panels, you're going to save money over the course of time. I don't have any doubt about that.
Sure.
At the same time, if you can be kind to the environment at the same time, and it's not costing, a ton of money also, I don't see why you wouldn't do it. So I'm excited about it from a money-making standpoint. I'm also excited about the technology that has brought the cost of solar down so that it's really feasible for most people, right? Really everybody.
Sure.
So I'm excited about those two things as far as energy is concerned. And then I'm really excited about that academy that I was telling you about. With the sports.
That's so unique. I gotta stay informed about that. I want to follow up and hear more about it. I think it's such a concept, such a cool concept.
Yep. And then with the temperament therapy, what we started doing the last couple of months is actually doing seminars. Like, we'll do one on a Saturday that might last 6 or 8 hours. And then we do some that are like on a Tuesday night that's like an hour and a half to 2 hours or something. And it's a way for people to, sometimes you kind of feel like I'm kind of down. Maybe I got some anxiety. I might have a relationship problem, something like that. But it's a big step to start going to a counselor. So a lot of people don't want to take that really leap of faith, that jump straight to a counselor. But they'll come to a seminar where there's 50 other people in the room, and we're all just going to learn about kind of like how our brain works and different personalities and temperament types and stuff. So it's been exciting to kind of do those types of things where you've got 50 people in a room and you're able to share kind of at a 20,000 foot level kind of view, and then see the people come afterwards and say, I really want to get together with you and talk about some stuff that's a little more personal to me. So that's really
kind of a safer way to dip your toes in the water.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some people that just keep coming back to the seminars. We've been doing them since October, and they just keep coming back to that, and that's all. And that's fine. That's fantastic. They're getting what they need. That's great. And then there's some people who I don't think would have ever called a counselor on their own, but because they came to that first, it was like a little bit easier. Now you've met, like my wife's name is Katja. Now you've met Katja. You've talked to her for maybe 5 minutes, at the end of the seminar or something. You feel a little more comfortable. All of a sudden the phone rings or the email gets dropped saying, hey, do you have some time for me on your calendar? So that's pretty cool. So excited about those three things.
That's awesome. That's great stuff. So for the sake of time, we'll start to wind down here. I appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Really,
it's been a blast. This is great as always. So if I'm out there in the world and I want to check out what you are up to, how do I find you?
Sure. So Real DMS Energy is the energy company. Legacy Park Sports, VA. Most of the time you got to put in VA because there's a lot of legacy parks out there.
Sure.
And then my wife's is Against the Current Ministries. Then you can, .com or whatever. And I always got to tell people, because I didn't realize this, we call it Against the Current because, like a dead fish can float downstream, but it takes a strong person or a strong fish to swim upstream. So that's against the current. But if you say Against the Current Ministries, some people think you're against the current ministries. Like, what's wrong with the current ministries, right? So we didn't realize that. And we're like a year into it, and somebody said, what's wrong with all the other ministries? Why are you against them? And we're like, what are you talking about? So maybe
that's outstanding. No, that's good.
Yeah.
You change the font on it, and then you're good to go, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then mine is Real Shawn Mills. If somebody wants to actually, find on different social media, because there's a lot of Shawn Mills out there too. So I'm just real Shawn Mills.
The one, the only, the one that matters.
One of the many, but the only one with a 10th grade education and 3 different businesses, maybe.
There you go. That's it. We've got a theme, work hard, diversify, and marry well. Shawn Mills.
There you go. That'll do it.
I just gave you your new tagline. That one's on the house.
Not necessarily in that order, but yes.
Right. You at whatever pace your life allows you to do it. No, that's good stuff. Well, cool. Well, on that note, we will wrap. I appreciate you hanging out, sir. And everybody, thanks for listening. We'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, thanks, Landon.
All right, take care.